Aziz of Saudi Arabia, who supported and financed the project.
Assalamu alaikum. You're watching Views and News and I'm Faisal Rehman live from our Islamabad studios. Today we'll be talking about the economy of Pakistan. If you remember, the Prime Minister of Pakistan yesterday did speak about the economic indicators, and one which was very important was about the deficit regarding the trade. Now, for the first time in October, we are witnessing that about 99 million plus is the indication, and this is a very good sign in a way that when you look at the last 4 years, this has never happened. Primarily, if you remember, the government of Pakistan ensured that there should be some regulation regarding the imports. But at the same time, there were multiple questions that if you will raise the customs or certain other duties for that matter on the imports, then the growth is going to get affected. At the same time, there were a lot of people who were also saying that the interest rate, which currently, as we speak, is at 13.5%, is so high, highest in the region, that it is also going to create a lot of problems, because when you talk about this kind of interest rate, who is going to take money from the banks? And the borrowing is not going to go in the private sector, rather government borrowing increased. We also witnessed that. As far as any significant improvement in our imports is concerned, we did not witness that, to be honest. Remittances almost remain the same, however, sometimes up, sometimes lower than the average benchmark. But according to the Prime Minister, since there are good news also, as I mentioned about the trade deficit for the month of October, that remained pretty decent. And according to this report which I have with me, it says Pakistan's economy is finally heading in the right direction as more of our economic reforms bear fruit. Current account balance was 99 million in October 2019 compared to 284 million in September 2019 and 1,280 million, that's $1.2 billion negative in October 2018. So practically if you look at it, so around $1.38 billion. I mean, this is what the figure comes to if you do the comparison between October 2018 and October 2019. And then it said, for the first 4 months of our fiscal year, our current account deficit has fallen by 73.5% compared to the same period last fiscal year. Our exports of goods and services in October 2019 rose 20% over the previous month and 9.6% over October 2018. So there's a positive trend if you compare it with on month-to-month basis or yearly basis. If you look at the October of 2018 and October of 2018, there's a 20% difference. And when you even compare it with the last month, still there is a significant improvement. Now, Dr. Hafiz Sheikh Saab, the finance minister, says the thrust is being shifted from cheaper imports to offering benefits to exporters. The government has offered a lot of concessions to traders, but there is a need to start from somewhere in respect of the documentation of the economy. Raza Bakir Saab, the head of the State Bank of Pakistan, says things are comparatively better compared with the situation 4 months ago, and the GDP growth is still low, but the growth is positive. Some sectors have even shown double-digit growth in the past quarter. But again, when you talk about the growth, which was set somewhere around 4.5 and 5, is currently less than 3. This is what the IMF says. This is what their prediction is. Furthermore, it says that exports of services during the 4 months clocked at 1.749 billion compared to 1.709 during the last year. Imports of services, on the other hand, reached $3.117 billion compared to 3.07 in fiscal year 18. Again, improvement showed on this side. During the current fiscal year, it adds further that rising inflows have helped the government improve its foreign accounts. In the first 4 months, the foreign direct investment jumped by 238%. The equity market is also receiving foreign investment, while the government security papers have received investments of around 800 million. Another good news was regarding the statement from Mr. Khusro Bakhtiar, the federal minister, says that the Chinese have also agreed to invest $10 billion, primarily in the energy sector and also in some of the other areas. So that's a good sign. Having said that, now since we'll be just talk, because when you talk about economy, it's such a huge subject. But primarily today we'll be focusing about the imports and the exports, two basic areas. To talk about that, we have with us in our studio. Let me introduce you to our panelists. On my right is Mr. Ahmed Hassan Mughal Saab. He's the former president of Islamabad Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Thank you very much, sir, for taking out your time and being a part of our show. We also have with us Faisal Fateh Saab, who is a stock market expert. Thank you very much, Faisal. And we have with us Abdul Jalil Saab, who's a senior economist. Jalil Saab, thank you very much, sir, for your time as well. Now, starting off from you, Mr. Mughal, talking about the imports. The gap, which used to be this much, ended up widening, and eventually, surprisingly, it was well over $35 to $37 billion, sir. And that was something which we couldn't afford. Certainly, there was this statement about the regulation of the imports, and that has proven to be pretty effective, sir. So the trade deficit is decreasing. Though the push we really wanted to give to our exports, it doesn't exist there anymore, but obviously at least a year or two are required to again look after the basic issues. But imports, sir, a lot of people used to criticize that this is going to actually become a barrier for our growth. When you talk about the interest rate, 30.5%, very high, again, something which the private sector would not like to see. But over here, sir, if you look at the imports of Pakistan, especially those imports which eventually result in increasing your exports, is that the issue, sir? Or you think the unnecessary consumable items normally which used to import, that has proven to be correct, sir?
First, you have to look at what the domestic production has come to. There's been a continuous deindustrialization in the past few years, and it's been continuing on in this government as well. Most of what we are manufacturing, we're importing raw materials. Now, if it's a good thing that your imports are decreasing, but at the same time, the raw material that used to be coming in, that has decreased also, and that has resulted in lower production as well. So in a way, it is good that we are saving foreign exchange, but on the other hand, we are not producing more, or we are not being more efficient in that matter as well. So these are the things that we have to look upon. Now, in terms of interest rate, that is one of the highest. Last year, it used to be around 6%. Now it's gone up to 13.25%. Plus, if you put in the spread of the bank as well, it goes to something around 16 to 17%. I think for someone who is already established his business or who's looking to start a new business, that is not feasible for anyone to be paying that much interest. A lot of our people or producers, manufacturers, they are depending upon the financial institutions because it gives them a cushion if they're borrowing from those institutions. But with this interest rate, it has not been feasible for them. And instead of, if it was a lower interest rate, they might have gone towards increasing their production. But due to this interest rate and all these things, the cost of production has gone so much higher in the past year as well, that they are trying to maintain whatever they're producing right now. And it has been very difficult for most of the industrialists that I've talked to survive with these conditions at the moment.
A lot of industries, they've been shut down in Faisalabad and so many other areas for that matter, sir. And another important area, I was just reading an article about the auto manufacturers. Whether you talk about Suzuki, you talk about Honda, you talk about Toyota, they have in certain cases, or rather in certain time, they have actually totally shut down their production. And look at the level of sales. In most cases, around 40-45% sales, they have gone down if you compare them with the previous year's same month. That is also something I think one has to look into, because either it is showing that the purchasing power has gone down. Number two, it could be an indication that the prices, they have gone up so much that people really believe that, if I'm paying this amount of money, that cognitive dissonance element comes in, and that, this thing is not worth it. You have better options to go forward to.
If you compare the prices of automobiles with the last year, they've gone up to almost 25% up.
That's what I'm saying,
In
sir.
just 1 year.
Yes, sir.
And if you're talking about the production of cars as well, if you compare it with India as well, so the statistics for the last 5 months have been shown that year on year, it has been decreasing as well in India as well. So I don't know, it's like, we're already having too many cars, I don't know, the price, maybe one of the biggest reasons is the prices that have gone up by almost by 25%, and the FEDs on imported cars, that has gone up as well. They stopped, to some extent, they've stopped the
in one way or the other, it's great that the cartel they had formed,
Yeah.
it was such a strong body that they would even challenge the government.
Yeah.
And they were getting so many subsidies because the local auto manufacturing is going to get disturbed. So let's not put more taxes on the imported vehicles. Whereas, honestly speaking, when you look at the product, it's much below than the average quality product of any country. See, these bags are not opening, even in Jeeps made by certain companies here as well. So now, Faisal, another point now. Since Mughals have mentioned about the issues related to our exports. So Pakistan will, and I hope should also remain an agricultural producing state, sir. But look at the way the agricultural, there's a constant decline when you look at the graph, sir. Now it's around 19% according to certain statistics. But sir, look at the wastage. There is no value addition. I'm not saying that convert a tomato into a rocket engine or something. I'm just saying that why can't you convert that into a puree or into a ketchup or something? Why do we end up importing everything from abroad, sir? At least for our domestic consumption, we can produce all this in Pakistan, like butter for that matter, or just so much. I mean, forget about the dairy products, even in other fields as well, sir.
Okay. When we talk about, since you asked about agriculture, when we talk about agriculture, yes, we were and we still believe that in our heart that we are agrarian economy because agriculture based, because we have such large human resource pool, and the easiest way is to go towards agriculture. The thing that is affecting agriculture very adversely first is global warming, change in weather patterns. We have seen cotton production going down by 19 to 22%. We have seen same thing, especially worse off hit areas, Sindh and some parts of Punjab as well, southern Punjab. We have seen, rains or hail coming out of nowhere, not in the season. So yes, we are seeing our agriculture production hitting by 15-20%. Price of tomatoes going up and everything and stuff. On the other hand, when we talk about value addition, we are like the third most milk producing country in Asia at least, or in the world. We have
and then also buffalo milk.
Right, and we have huge MNCs working in there. We have Nestle working in there and stuff like that. But we never convert that milk into cheese, right? If you can convert that milk into cheese, that is huge value addition.
Absolutely, sir.
Right, a liter of milk when converted into cheese can be sold almost 7 times to 8 times more than what you are doing with milk. I think our issue when we talk about when this government came into power, the biggest or the challenge they faced was balance of payments. $35-40 billion, you couldn't keep on going that route. You had to reduce your current account deficit, and for that I think the firefighting was done, and across the board imports were slashed. The deficit, we are seeing the shrinking of deficit, 96% of that is contributed towards the shrinking of imports, not increase in exports.
Absolutely, 100% agreed, sir.
96% is due to imports. And if you go further in detail, major is their automobile, as you were touching, 44% in imports. That's a reduction in imports of automobiles and stuff like that. But what it is doing is the question, I think so we need to ask, are we done with the stabilization stage? Can we move towards the growth or can we not?
From this stage?
From this
From
stage.
the current stage, okay.
Right. Which stage we are at? So yes, we all can agree on that when this government came into power, they need to do this. They could have done, there could be a lot of debate whether they could have done it this way or that way, but you had to reduce the current account deficit. But I think the question right now is, are the indicators there that we can start feeling confident that we will be moving towards the growth stage? And we have achieved that stabilization or that stability, whether it was, we can say first review of IMF went good, stock market is doing good, current account deficit down, hot money is pouring in
Stock
into
market during the last week really
yeah, going up.
yes, behaved
It's,
so well. Was very bullish.
Being from the stock market, yes, we are happy in the stock market, but to be very honest, there's still a lot of room, and it is still, I think so it was oversold, and it recovered because yes, there are some positive indicators, and we
Foreign
believe
direct investment in your stock market, in the capital markets,
Yeah,
that's also
because-
played a very important role, isn't it?
yeah, because I think so. If you look at overall the progress of stock market from 55,000 index, it came to almost 30,000, and plus with the rupee devaluation, if you look at it, so stocks lost almost 70% of their value in dollar terms. So they became very attractive. At one point, it becomes attractive if an asset is down by 70%, right? That is the most.
Is that the reason the foreign investors are pulling in now, sir?
I think if you look at what Raza Baka was talking about, hot money coming into your T-bills, and there is kind of you are on the radar, and right now we are seeing Chinese economy slowing down, we are seeing US economy slowing down. It is at 3%. Next year it is estimated to be below 2.2% US economy. Interest rates are there, still at 3%.
When you look at the developed countries, forget about China. Primarily, you will see that the growth rate is 1.2%. Take the example of Italy or Germany for that matter, or other European countries. They're 1.2, 1.4, 1.5%. I mean, and that's considered to be decent enough. But sir, when you look at the region, especially let's talk about Pakistan, you talk about Sri Lanka, talk about India, Bangladesh, even Afghanistan, Bhutan, all these countries, I mean, the kind of growth rate they are experiencing at the moment, it's much higher than that of Pakistan, sir.
But if you have an interest rate of 13.5%, and if your stock market is almost lost 70% of its value, then it becomes a very positive and attractive investment for foreigners as well, just to, get a taste of it or diversify their portfolio.
So would you consider market falling from 53 to almost 30 something? Was that a due correction?
I think so. Stock markets are
or was that the lack of confidence of the investors, sir?
No.
Or maybe both?
Look, in Pakistan stock market, active investors are just like 8,000 to 10,000 investors. There's not much bigger of a room. And stock markets, any market, especially when it is a liquid market like stock market, it works on the sentiments. It overplays the news, it overplays the thing. And I think so it overplayed, it got oversold. Now it is correcting itself from overbought 55,000, oversold at 28,000, and going back into a correction phase where I think so it should be at around 40, 44, with it could be a very realistic
But the
stabilization
bubble burst
phase.
phenomena is not
No,
going to
it's
happen
not.
again,
No.
which we witnessed earlier,
No.
sir.
Yeah.
Jalil Saab, sir.
I was just listening the remarks, and the analytical conclusion from the conversation. What I can think about it, you will find that imports are going down, right? Investors are not happy, right? The stakeholders are also not very happy, as they have shown through their protest marches as well. The traders have gone astray. The reason is that what I can find is that the mega policy framework of economic development, which includes the tax policy, the monetary policy, the investment policy, right? They are not properly reconciled with each other, and they are not harmonized with each other. For example, it has been rightly pointed out that the interest rate is very high. Because of the heavy rate of interest, it is quite now possible that many manufacturing units who have been so far depending on the loan might go bankrupt, or they may shut down their manufacturing unit as well. because 13% is pretty high, number one. Number two, there is some kind of, then I would say the tax policy, although I believe that documentation of economy suffers a lot of limitation, this work should have been done long ago. The government have taken drastic steps to ensure that as much as possible, all financial transactions that take place within the borders of Pakistan are properly notified and documented. That is good, and be reported back to the Federal Board of Revenue. There are two questions as well. Firstly, the Federal Board of Revenue does not have the technical, the capacity to deal with this information, to preserve this information, and then in the light of this information, they have to take action. And in order to take action, they require the number of the officers who are not there. The manpower is desperately deficient. That is another reason, And then what you find is, you were just talking about the heavy industrial sector, like the automobile sector. It is very sad that automobile sector is now experiencing a real big crisis in the history of Pakistan as well.
Don't you think, sir, this is time for them to
Yes.
gear up also?
Sir,
because they
sir,
have
it has been-
squeezed, the way they have squeezed, sir, the entire nation. I mean, imagine a car worth, let's say, 2 million
Faisal
rupees,
Saab.
and you are paying almost 15% extra on that to
Faisal
buy
Saab.
that. I mean, what is this?
Faisal Saab.
Absolute nonsense, sir.
Faisal Saab, the question is that whenever you bring a change in the public policy, you got to see that your stakeholders are satisfied. You take one thing from their hand.
Sir, there is a
If
way.
you
Like,
feel-
for example, Jalil Saab, in France, they used to give a lot of subsidy to their farmers, more than the average European countries, But they could afford it because they wanted to make sure that their product is super competitive, especially when you talk about the wine industry for that matter, sir. That the grape and the production and the season, everything. I mean, there are so many other products also, which is one of the top produce of France. In our country, sir, I'm just going to give the example of tomato to you, sir. 320 rupees a kg also was the rate in certain places in Islamabad, sir.
Faisal
This
Saab,
is
now you are talking about.
No, I'm just
Ahmed,
giving you one example.
Sir, you are talking about the
There is nobody to
agriculture
look after
sector
the
of
price,
society.
consumer price index over here, sir. Everybody is, and on top, I'm sorry to say, the finance minister says that in certain fruit and vegetable markets, it is sold at 17 rupees a
Faisal
kg.
Saab, I would like to draw your
can't be
attention
like
to
that,
the
sir.
scale of the, to that high scale of the subsidy which is given by developed country to the farmer all over the world. Agricultural, sector is always
America
suffering
does,
from
the
loss.
way they look after their
America,
farmers.
650 billions, and that was the one reason why, on the floor of why WTO, World Trade Organization dialogue, they could in Kyoto and also in
They
Dubai,
don't want you to
they
give
could
these
not
kind of
succeed
subsidies to your
because
even manufacturers of
developing country,
Yep.
it was a basic demand of the developing country that you should withdraw these subsidies because the developing country have got only an edge in field of agriculture. They produce, and their agriculture produce is not, accepted in the Western country because number one, they say that its quality is bad. Number two, they say that it becomes very expensive. But the reason is, what lesson we draw from Pakistan? Now, what is happening in Pakistan? Number one, there is a constant, in some area of Pakistan, there is a constant drought-like situation. This Indus Basin water.
So these are all mere excuses because when either you're flooded, you don't make dams. Either there's a drought and then you cry for water. I mean, look at your...
This is what we have to...
when you talk about the yield, sir, that is also again, though we claim that we're the highest, growers, maybe in cotton, and we used to be very good in wheat and rice and sugarcane and you name it, in dates and...
So, sir, the economy is not the name of one activity alone.
That's what I'm saying.
Multiple
Everything is
activities
interlinked
are
also, sir.
involved. And secondly, what you find, the medium and the small farmer, they are becoming bankrupt, and they are consuming their savings and their asset for ensuring their survival. As a result of it, what has happened? They are selling off their land. And this fast paces of the urbanization, you know it very well.
You
It is
had
going
made a
on.
bank called
And
Zari Taraqqiyati Bank, especially for the farmers, and you look at the level of corruption. I'm sorry to say, not particularly in this government, I'm sorry to say, but since Pakistan came into being, let's put it this way, sir. For the last 72 years, sir, they were supposed to look after the farmers and look after their problems and, give them some support in the form of some urea maybe, or maybe tractor financing or something of that sort. What have they done so far, sir?
Faisal Sahab, I would like to draw your attention towards the PRSP paper, Poverty Reduction Strategy paper, which was written during the time of General Musharraf, 2003.
Hey, we even had
By
the
Ministry-
Poverty Reduction
and
and Growth Facility Program also, if you remember. Yes.
And they have promised that number one, we will provide a high quality seed to the farmer, number one. Number two, the water shortage would be overcome by creating new facilities. Number three, they said the model that India
What
have adopted,
facilities are we talking
and then electricity would be provided at a concessional basis. Number four,
Look at the price.
their produce will be preserved. It would be ensured that it is preserved in the warehousing facility. It will be provided to them, and those warehousing facilities would provide connectivity with the international market as well. And, right?
What was the rocket
Averagation.
science which we could do,
Nothing
sir?
has happened. I mean, it is over 50, it is over 2
So, you
decades
know,
now.
again coming back to you, Mughal Sahib, now as we all hear this very common phrase, where there's a will, there is a way. And I totally believe in it, you know. If you have a will, you can go for it with all the guns blazing and you will achieve your goal, sir. But with this kind of a strategy, sir, 1 plus 2 is 2, and then, you know, 2 plus 1 is again minus 2, I think. I mean, it's just a different weird formulas they're using, sir. The basic problem, I mean, if there are around a little less than 200 countries in the world, sir. We are among the bottom ones. You compare us with, I mean, we always say, oh, we are resilient. Good enough. Good for you. It doesn't add any value to the exporting products. You understand? Or rather, it doesn't give any subsidy on the import also. You talk about the issues of under-invoicing, sir. I won't name, you know. There are so many issues at so many levels. Most of the people, whether they are sitting in the bureaucracy or they are sitting in the assemblies or whatever, they do not understand the dynamics, how things work. Because otherwise Pakistan wouldn't have been in this condition at the moment, sir. Honestly. Secondly, nobody was on merit for the right man, for the right job. That formula didn't work, sir. It's that if I like you, man, you go ahead, become the sports chairman, you know. Whether you have played cricket in your life or not, that's not my headache. But the point is, sir, now Khan Sahib is trying to level up things. You know, he's trying to do whatever he can within the given capacity, though the country is in shambles at the moment as we speak, sir. Reality should be told to the patient if he's sick. Unfortunately, over here, sir, we see the small and medium enterprises, sir, SMEs.
SMEs.
That was actually our backbone, sir.
That is the basis of manufacturing.
Absolutely, and that's how you grow like this, you know. I mean, this is how it is. This is what the formula is. Nobody talks about. We have been talking, I don't know for the last how many years, about the taxation system, that who's going to regulate that, who's going to make sure and ensure. Then you talk about that we will tax the retailers, size according to the size of their shop. Man, come on, if somebody is selling vegetables and there is another person who is selling gold, there has to be a difference. You can't do that on that. Just like they believe that, you know, poverty is recognized through the number of calories you take. For God's sake, I mean, this is 2019, man. Don't you think, I mean, we need to really look inward now and really need to capitalize on our strengths, if we have any left for that matter. Need to make sure that all the weaknesses should be eliminated, if not all, at least some. So that there is a formula, you know, you can see that things are happening. I mean, just by sending few papers, how many people who are watching us would understand these details?
Yes. Oh, I think every government that has come into power has never had a long-term strategy. Whatever policies they make, they're always looking to get re-elected for the next election. That is what their target is, you know, to spend their 5 years. Election comes in, present a favorable budget to the people, give them some relief, and get re-elected, and then, you know, start the same process again, start taxing them and doing that. It's unfortunate that, you know, we had we still have so much potential in terms of natural resources. Then we have some expertise in a few products, 4 or 5 products that we export all around the world, but we have not actually diversified from those 3 or 4 industries that we're exporting. A very good sector that could have worked for Pakistan would have been the services sector. More than 50% of our population is youth. Why couldn't we train them? Why couldn't we make them skilled?
How many polytechnical kind of institutes have you developed so far, sir?
I don't think there's probably...
You had few and they are shut.
And the thing is that, it's not even only that, if anyone that tries to open up as a business model is not successful, it's because people are not willing to go and learn over there and, start a trade. But we have so much potential. You compare it to the UK, or it's a completely service-based industry. What are they producing? They're only producing a few things, a few apples, strawberries, asparagus. That's what they produce. Their whole economy is based upon services. They've got education, they've got tourism. 70% of the world's capital, it goes through the city of London. So that's where they're making all the money from. But unfortunately, we've only focused on, we're going to make tech, we're going to have produce the best quality, export garments, and that has even been overtaken by Bangladesh right now. Why couldn't have been a part of something for global supply chain? Why couldn't have made something that would have been used by every country around the world, and we could have been a part of that. Maybe we could have made some sensors in the mobiles, and any company that wanted to make mobiles had to purchase it from Pakistan. Why couldn't we have been into other things as well? So services was a sector that we could have really focused on, and it is not a rocket science, to give good service to people. It's very, very simple, but unfortunately, what we're always looking for, everybody in Pakistan is looking for is a government job. It's because
because you don't need to work and you will get all the benefits.
And even if you retire, you still get a good lump sum. Yeah, that's what. Maybe if I get an opportunity, I'll join the government service as well, because you don't do anything. You sit all day, and you make anyone who wants to work, you don't let them work.
That's the beauty.
And actually, someone came in and they want to register as a member for the Chamber of Commerce, and she used to work in the government department. And I told her, how does it feel that once you've given up your government job and you've gone and registered for your business? And she told me that she had to go through 22 departments to register a firm that was planning to export items abroad. So that is how difficult it is. Ease of doing business, we are going up, but there's still so much to do that it will take a lot of time, a lot of effort. Maybe we need to revamp our whole system.
There are so many people, sir, who really want to invest some money in small businesses also. But honestly speaking, they do not know, and then the way they are discouraged when they go to those relevant departments and meet those people who are asking for money and everything. I mean, how many people have access to the Prime Minister's Secretariat, for that matter, where the Prime Minister says that he's going to have a one-window operation?
Yeah.
Come on. They don't even let you enter the red zone. You think somebody who's going to enter the red zone, enter the PM Secretariat, end up meeting Mr. XYZ, and then, getting everything done? For God's sake.
I think it's better at the moment. It is better that you sell all your assets and put them in the bank and get a good return on that, instead of working so hard.
The way your money is devaluing, for God's sake, sir.
As well as the return that you will be getting, probably like 15-16%. I think it's a good return, and it's probably you liquefy all your assets and then you put them in the bank.
Faisal.
Sir, look, if we have to talk about exports, I think what we are trying to figure out, or what we have been trying to figure out, is how to increase the exports. Okay. So when we talk about exports, our major exports for so many years are textiles, and other than that, whatever we have are just, marginal kind of exports, nothing major. Marble, salt lamps, they are all, even up to a level, textile is also what we call vitamins. Right? When you go to a pharmacy, there are two kind of things that you can buy. Either you buy painkillers, either you buy vitamins. Now, painkillers or antibiotics are something that you have to buy. They are prescription drugs you have to buy. Vitamins are something that you only buy if you feel like it, right? It's not something. So automobile and, technology, cell phones, all of these come into the sector of painkillers, and cosmetic goods, like, they come as vitamins.
Luxury goods.
Yeah, luxury goods,
yes.
You could call it.
Needs and wants, let's
Needs
put it
and
this
wants,
way.
right.
Yeah.
Other than textile, we have nothing to export. Okay, we don't have anything to export, and we have not seen any government, any past government for the last 30 years, 40 years, that have strived into any other sector look towards any other sector where we can find, some kind of niche where we can create it. Yeah, we talk about so much about, our youth and population and everything, but you just don't export the products, you export the culture along with it, you export the intellect along with it. When you go towards exporting something, the whole philosophy or the whole culture has to be changed, right? There's one case study that, and I quote it, and I'm going to quote it again since we are talking about automobile sector. 1949, Hindustan Motor and Toyota both started production the same year. For next 40 years, Hindustan Motors produced the same car by the name of Ambassador. They kept on doing that. People were on the waiting list to get that car for 4 years, 5 years. They used to get a car, it was like, somebody won the lottery. And there was not a single change in the design of
Absolutely
that car.
same.
Right?
Even
And
the
look at-
ministers,
Right.
even the prime ministers
Right.
of India used to use those ambassador
in
old style.
those 40 years, Toyota started from very small, from Japan, which was, totally devastated after Second World War. And they understood that no more they could live as an island nation, cut off with the whole of the world. No longer they have to, go to Philippines or China just to get
Just
oil
imagine,
and tin.
after
They
that
had
kind
to.
of destruction, they ended up becoming the second largest economy of the world, with the population less than Pakistan, in a span of how much time? 40, 45 years.
40,
That's
45
it.
years, that's it. And what changed? What changed is the culture. You decide that you have to produce something of quality. You decide that, the mark, the Toyota, which is going to go out, export, it will
Toyota is the
be,
largest car manufacturer in the world, sir.
it will be with the stamp of made in Japan.
Yep.
Right.
Symbol of quality.
Right, symbol of quality. Sony, the guy who started this whole revolution there. So other than this academic talk, for last 40 years, not one of our governments, and sorry to say, even our, business sector, even our intellect sector, we didn't want to do this thing. I don't know. We never strive towards that. There's not a single field. Whether it is, we talk so much about IT. I've been listening about IT would do this and that.
The Prime Minister said that we will be able to export the software worth around $4 billion, sir.
Hopefully, but what kind of
He said that in June. It's June, July, August, September, October, November. So you're talking about almost 5 months are gone, right?
I think Prime Minister is,
So,
Prime Minister's
so
just,
technically speaking, we should have been, by this time, $1.8 billion worth of export in IT should have been done.
I think so. What he's talking about is a lot to do with freelancing and stuff.
No, what I'm saying is, there has to be some figures of what
But-
happened in that line.
But I want to say, what is your focus? If it is IT, are you focusing towards it? Are you expending more or giving more money to HEC, building more universities, building more incubation centers? What we are talking about? We are talking about increasing the tax rate on professors, cutting budgets of universities. I understand whatever the government is going through. I'm not going to,
There
be
seems
that
to be a
harsh.
disconnect. Things are not in alignment. That's another problem.
That's the whole point, that we don't want to even pick a sector. You have to pick and choose, right?
You can't be the exporter in everything.
Right.
Exactly.
And you cannot be fixing all the indicators all the time. You have to pick and choose. You have to say, okay, this is what our focus is. Since as public, we don't understand what the focus of the government is. The only
I'll
focus
just
we
give
could
you
see is
3
tourism, I think
indicators.
so.
Jalil Saab, inflation at one of the highest level at the moment, correct, sir?
Yes.
Yes,
Interest rate, highest ever, correct, sir?
yes.
Growth, lowest ever, correct, sir? You've been into negative growth also, but generally speaking, sir, if you compare it with the region and then you do the comparison, you expect something good to happen just by looking at these 3 major factors, sir.
But practically what you see, the economy is shrinking day by day. That's one reason. Inflation is going up. That's another factor. Joblessness is also increasing as well. And our exports are also going up. As far as manufacturing sector is concerned, it has not registered any growth over the last year, over the last 2 years.
What about
Last year.
LCMs?
Huh?
large-scale manufacturers?
A lot, yes, they are also in crisis. Similarly,
I think it's
right.
negative 7%.
Faisal Sahib,
yeah,
we were just
shrinking.
talking. We were just talking about that. After all, we have talked a lot that there is a failure of the public policy, economic policy, taxation, investment policy, and secondly, the ease of business is not there. That is also a problem. But the out of all, if you find that what is the crux of the matter is, you have hinted at. And I think we should try to dilate upon it. That's very important issue. That's the poor human resource management policy of the government of Pakistan. That's the real problem with this country now. If you see our universities are producing graduates, they are very poor in the narrative. Their quality of skill is very
Plagiarism.
low. Plagiarism and
Copy pasting.
And Faisal Sahab, there is
Look at the quality of PhDs you're producing. It's a shame.
There is a university right here in Islamabad, Namal, which has disqualified many prospective PhDs simply because of the jealousy of the few professors that if you produce more PhD, they might challenge their position. They might challenge their monopolistic. They will challenge their monopoly in this sector, and that is the one reason. Now the problem is the educational policy is in the complete mess. As far as students, whether it's a PhD or a research or a MPhil, they carry a research degree. When they come out of their university, they should be able to apply knowledge with accuracy, with efficiency. Unfortunately, it is not happening. And has any inquiry has been made, any evaluation made by HEC? No. They are doing, the HEC people, they just behave like a bureaucrat as well. Similarly, in university, you see, there is a lot of, I can see, I have been dealing with the university as well in capacity of a government servant. There is a lot of, Faisal Sahib, right now you will find unethical standards are being followed within the university as well. And nobody has pointed out. For example, the professors who are, there are some universities who are giving us a good turnout, like Government College Lahore, you can say, but they are running on the strength of their tradition and the old norms as well, right? But what I say that the attitude of the professor is highly unethical. Again, typical that attitude of a low middle class.
I understand, sir, because
as a result of it, what you
at
see,
the end of the day, sir, as they say that it's not the gun, it's the man behind the gun. So it's the man behind the machine, it's the brain behind the man.
Social revolution
and
is
if you're
required.
not investing in the brain of a man, sir.
Yes. So social revolution is required the social revolution is required. Knowledge management revolution is required, but it must be accompanied and strengthened with moral revolution. Attitude of the people should be changed, and we must act with the sense of possession. In United States of America, university, professor will own his students, and they will make sure he goes out of the university successful. And they keep...
Basically, sir, it's not about the import or export. I mean, it's primarily about the very basic and the fundamentals of any nation, sir.
Exactly.
That you're told not to cheat just to get the good grades.
And there is
at
no
the end of the day,
competition.
in the long run, those grades do not matter. Yeah.
Faisal Sahib, there is no competition. Competition is inhibited. It is the norms of the competition, they are suppressed.
All right, sir.
That's very important.
Anyway, sir, thank you very much, Jalil Saab. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much, Wal Saab. That's all we have for this, sir. I'll see you, inshallah, tomorrow at 8. Till then, you take good care. Khuda Hafiz.